Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending when you are. I'm down under. We have Mike Vinikour in the US in the morning. Mike, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, very good. It's been a minute. I've been MIA for a couple of weeks. Chris has been, Gonzo has been MIA, and you've been busy the last couple of weeks too. And we've
Oh
had some
yeah,
pretty.
yeah,
We had a massive week of Stern code drops a couple of weeks ago. We had X-Men, we had Wick, we had Jaws, we had Dungeons and Dragons. Like it was pretty full on. And we're going to talk about obviously everything that we've seen with your involvement with X-Men and Wick. And I really appreciate we've been trying to get together and the planets just haven't aligned. A lot of that's got to do with the time zone and me
yeah,
misreading an email. So apologies.
yeah. It's
Um,
it's all right. I'm not a morning person, so one of the benefits of working from home is I can start work at the same time but sleep an hour later. So
yep.
yeah, so it's even
And
harder. Yeah,
more importantly, not wear
yeah.
pants.
Well, and I always wear pants because I'm on Zoom all day. So if I got up to go to go get a snack or go to lunch or to move something on one of my games or play it, everybody would see me. So
So we everyone's heard MXV at some point. They've heard about you. I know you don't do a lot of social media stuff. I haven't seen a lot of interviews. I know I've seen you in some Stern stream recently, which has been great, and I saw you blow up a couple games as well. Let's start before we get into that. Like you've obviously been doing pinball for a while. We spoke before, and you mentioned when you worked at Williams doing Medieval Madness.
well, I didn't work. I mean, so when I worked at Williams Valley Midway, I started in the video game side of the business.
Ah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
later in my career at that company, I ran their field test program where we would place games on locations
Oh
and
wow.
track the earnings and update them as we were developing them before they would go into production. That's a lost art in the internet age. You
Yeah.
can't do that because you can't hide anything anymore, right?
No, it's not.
Back in those days, there were no smartphones, people didn't have cameras on them. There was barely an
Yeah.
internet, so we could put games in our local arcades, months before we would actually go into full production. So when I did that, I was in charge of doing it for both video and pinball.
Yeah, right. So how did you get into pinball? Did you like obviously become did you pick up and go, I just want to go with pinball?
No, so I'm pretty old. I'm in my mid 50s. So when I was a little kid, as soon as my hands were big enough to reach the flipper buttons, there was an arcade at the end of my block, and my dad used to take me to play pinball with him because he liked it. So
Yeah.
this was in a pre-video game age, right? Like
Oh wow.
Pong was out, but not even Space Invaders yet. So I have vivid memories of him taking me there, and I would play. I have to stand on a stool still, and I would play pinball, and play games with him. And he would just give me, I'd keep asking him for quarters because I was no good at it. And then the video games came through, and I got obsessed with those even more. But I always loved pinball, and whatever we had at the arcade, I would still always play. And then when I got a little bit older, like middle school era, my cousin, a much older cousin than me, he's about 20 years or so older than me. He uh, he was the manager of that same arcade. So I lived
Wow.
there. So, like every day after school, all day Saturday, and just hung out with him. Like he was more of a parent to me than my dad was at that point. So I just lived at that arcade. And then later I worked there up until it closed. I was the assistant manager there the last couple of years. So I was always around it. But it was my obsession with Mortal Kombat that led me to go work at Williams Valley Midway because I wanted to work on Mortal Kombat games.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and then I met a guy at a punk rock concert, band the Bull Wheels were playing. He was wearing a Mortal Kombat T-shirt, and you couldn't buy merch back then, right? It wasn't a thing. So
Yeah.
I ran up to him, perfect stranger, and I was very shy and standoffish at that time, so I didn't even talk to people I didn't know, but I needed that shirt. So I'm like, "Where'd you get that shirt? I want it." I'm like, "Just you want to trade? I'll give you my shirt, you know?" And he's like, "Well, I work in Midway Games." I'm like, "You do not. Get out of here." He goes, "No, I do." And I made him show me his business card to prove it because I didn't believe him.
Yeah,
And
wow.
then I don't know where I had the nerve to ask him for a job, but I'm like, I'd love to be a game tester for you guys. Would you need such a thing? I wouldn't even know how to go about trying to get you that kind of gig." And he said, "You know what? I'm working on a game and we could use some testing soon. Give me your number and I'll call you." I thought he was going to throw it away when as soon as I turned around, he was standing next to a garbage can. It was right next to the bar. But to his credit, he called me, and that was my foot in the door at that company. And then my
Yeah.
talent kept me, and then I became one of the first two game testers they ever had. Like, and I lobbied for them to make it a full-time gig. We would just do it as contractors. Me and this guy named Eddie Ferrier were a tag team. And they would have us come in every time there were games to work on. They would pay us hourly. But then I was like, I was at that crossroads in life. I'm like, I need a full-time job with health benefits. I'm
Yeah.
like, you guys have to hire us full-time or I have to leave. And thankfully, they valued us enough to like, they made a full-time position for us. So I started the QA department there.
Yeah, wow, awesome. Mortal Kombat is one of those games that I've just like, I want a Mortal Kombat pinball machine. It's
I would
whether the
love to do one.
oh no, whether it was just such a graphic game. I remember over here we had one, and we all heard back in the 90s that there was one at the local arcade, and then we started playing it, and it had green blood, and everyone thought, "What is going on here?" Like, it's And back then we didn't, like you said, we couldn't do reviews. We didn't have, apart from magazines, but they'd be so delayed, especially being in Australia, right?
Yeah.
So we were reading stuff, and yeah, Mortal Kombat was such an impactful, part of nostalgia, really. Like, it's just, you think video games, everyone thinks Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Duke Nukem half the time. That's another video game I'm trying to rally for. Pinball game is Duke Nukem. And getting into your role at Stern, in relation to like code, right? Are you there to come up with ideas and write code, or are you just passing that on and someone else is writing code?
Yeah. So one of the things that a lot of people uh, misunderstand is I am not a programmer, and so it's a disservice to the programmers who are insanely, they're brilliant, talented people.
Mm.
I'm not one of those. I don't. If I wrote one line of code in any of our games, it wouldn't compile. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I work with the leads on various teams, and the capacity changes of I'm there to serve them their needs and aid in rule design. So in some cases it's a ton of rule design, and in some cases it's a little bit. In the case of like Keith Elwin's team, they don't need the help, so I don't ever work on his games these days. And that's not a knock on them. They're,
Mm.
they just, I'm just here to, I'm a resource for whoever needs it. And on
Needs it,
top of
yeah.
that, I also do. So I work with the programmers, but we'll come up with stuff usually together, or I'll pitch something, or I'll just design it. It really depends on the project. And then the lead programmer has to go and program it. So in the case of like James Bond, Lonnie and I would brainstorm, for hours over everything. And then we'd come up with something we both liked and agreed that we think is going to be fun. Then he'd have to go program it. And then once he gets it in the game, then we would both play it, and we would both have to like it for it to stay.
Mm.
So the game would pretty much tell us, hey, this is good or bad. And sometimes you'll have stuff that we'll come up with on paper we think is brilliant. And then in practice, it's not fun, and we got to go back to the drawing board. So on
And
top of that, on top of that, if it's a music pin that has expression lights,
mm,
I did those light shows, and that's
right.
not with programming. I have a visual tool I use that they gave me to like lay those out. It's
Yeah.
fairly tedious, time consuming work, but to me, it's absolutely worth it because I love the way they turn out. Like, being a concert photographer part time, they came to me. They're like, "You want to do these? Like, we think you'd be good at it." And it was their idea. And I'm like, "Well, I have to learn it. And what if I suck at it?" They're
Yeah.
like, "Well, we'll tell you if you're bad at it." I said, "All right, if I'm suck at it, just kick me off the project. No hard feelings. I just want what's best for the game."
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, you'll be good at it. We believe in you." They believed in me more than I did. And then once I got the hang of it, like, then I did get good at it, and people seem to really like that. So if there's a
I think
music pin, I'll do it. Yeah.
I was going to say your record collection is probably good for a resume. It seems I can see that over your shoulder.
And I do concert photography part time, and I have for the last 22 years. So they're like, you spend half your life at like rock concerts. Like, you would know better than anybody in this building, like what the stuff should look like.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm glad you brought up Bond, because that's a good segue into both of these things, actually. And I think Bond was a really good example. And I've said it in multiple streams, and I told George Gomez when he had him on the channel that for me, I was one of those people at first when I got Bond that I was like, oh man, I'm just not gelling with it. I don't really understand what's going on. And then, being patient, was one of those things about, well, I'm going to put it aside for now and let's just see what happens, right? Because we all know it's not new in pinball. Games don't come out fully finished. Code is an evolving thing. And I think one of the pros and cons about today's day is you can get games out to people and get feedback, even in the video game world, and you can keep doing updates and fixing bug fixes and blah, blah, blah. And Bond went from being a game that was pretty average on release due to multiple reasons to being, in my opinion, one of Stern's best games. And I think, when it comes to Wick and X-Men, obviously going, well, they've been out for nearly a year. Where are we at? And being so impatient about it, I think people need to remember that, like, look what happened with Bond, right?
Yeah.
And I do think, and I will put my devil's advocate hat here on, that yes, when you spend a lot of money on a pinball machine, there is a bit of expectation. Well, it shouldn't be a little bit empty. And yes, maybe it was rushed out in production because the game was brought forward and all that. We don't need to get into that. But, I think sometimes people forget that. And I think sometimes there are the people that are knocking on the door that maybe have valid arguments. But there's again, people don't know what's happening behind closed doors, right? And you guys are a big oiled machine at Stern, and deadlines are important, and production deadlines are important, and keeping the board happy and everything. Like, it's a domino effect, right? And
Yeah.
George did explain to us a little bit on the channel the fact that X-Men was brought forward and blah blah blah. And we know where the code's at, and I think X-Men, which we'll touch on, because that's probably had, is it fair to say, a much bigger overhaul than John Wick?
Yeah. I would say that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
There's going to be more stuff changing in X-Men more drastically, I would say,
Mm.
than in Wick. But Wick, a lot is changing in Wick too. But
Yeah.
I'd say that Wick was in a little bit better shape. It was also out longer, so it had more development time
Yeah.
before Lonnie and I, took it over. But they're both getting some pretty big overhauls. Yeah.
So with X-Men, I mean, I'm a huge X-Men ambassador. I've got my X-Men watch. I don't think people can see it.
Oh,
I've got
nice.
my
Oh,
little,
yeah, yeah.
it's the little danger room. I've had that on there. You'll see that on the Instagram. But love the layout. I'm a huge Jack Danger fan, and he'll be on the channel hopefully next week. And the layout is, in my opinion, one of the quirkiest ones Stern's ever made, and one of the best ones. I just love shooting X-Men. And the code, I was pretty happy with it. Like, it was, it was very straightforward, and especially for that genre, which it appeals to, superheroes appeal to pretty much everybody, especially new generation that we're trying to pull into pinball.
Yeah.
It was pretty straightforward. Yes, it probably didn't have a bit of personality in the modes and stuff like that, but we knew it probably was going to be coming. Then, well, we're not 12 months. I think October will be 12 months. But then you come along, and obviously things change. Now, one of the things
Yeah.
that I really thought was interesting is the way that the activating the modes, where now it's all off the right flipper, where the post comes
Yeah.
up and holds the ball. The skill shots are different. So do you want to run through some of? You don't have to go into detail, because I know you've got
Sure.
a video you guys did as a stream, and if you haven't seen that, go watch Nick blow up 700 million points on
Oh,
ball one
yeah.
or something.
Yeah, I mean, I nicknamed Nick the sniper because he's just that accurate at
Oh,
shooting, flipping games now. I've watched that kid grow up literally since the day he was born because his dad and I worked together at Midway Games, when it's
yeah,
Valley Midway. And his dad was my last manager when I worked at
there
Midway
you go.
Games. And now, he's one of my bosses here at
Yeah,
Stern. So I've
yeah,
watched
yeah.
Nick grow up and become one of the, he's a top level player. He's amazing.
And
Um,
he's technically, his role is game testing, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's one
Yeah,
of our 2, software testers now,
yeah,
and he's a huge asset. We're happy and lucky to have him.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so the reason for the change on how the modes start, it was very confusing to people, especially more casual and novice players, of like
Mm,
everything started a mode, and sometimes it's on the left flipper, and sometimes it's on the right flipper, and there was no consistency of like why that was, and we wanted to streamline it to make it much clearer. Like, okay, modes start here and always feed the one flipper, the right flipper. Um, and then we're gonna have the other stuff that's not that feed the other flipper. So there's a very clear distinction of what you're about to do. Because again, a lot of casuals don't even understand that they started a mode,
Yeah.
but it'll be easier for them to pick up on that and learn this if there's a consistency, or it's like, okay, these things always happen here.
And there's also
uh,
more shots you can hit from the right flipper too.
correct,
Yeah.
yeah. So and we are going to rework the 8 modes to give them more unique personalities. um some of them will become more difficult because they're a little bit easy. Some of
Mm.
them are a little bit easy. But there was to me and to some other people, there was like a sameness to the 8 modes. Like they
Yeah.
don't, and John Wick kind of suffered the same thing with the jobs. The adversary battles were fantastic. Like there were 5 of them in John Wick, and they were very unique, and they feel like their own thing. We want the jobs to be like that too in Wick, and the modes to be like that in X-Men, where this mode doesn't feel like that mode where I'm just shooting the same arrow shots. It doesn't, like, it's almost like pick one at random. It didn't matter because they
Yeah.
all kind of felt too similar.
And which is great. It is true. I think one of the things I found is that the modes did feel the same, but they were just skinned, Wolverine, and then the next one was Beast, and I did like that. Obviously, the biggest overhaul was the future, because
Yeah,
before you had to do 2 modes, complete them, then you got to go to the future, and then we had to read a lot of text to understand what we had to do, which, like, it's in pinball, you got short window. How do you get that message across? So the big text thing was a little bit difficult, but I do like the idea now that every time you complete that one mode, you go straight to the future.
yeah,
Save your person. So if you're playing Wolverine's mode, you're saving Wolverine.
yep.
And then basically it's just destroying Sentinels, right? And then
You're destroying
yeah,
Sentinels. Yeah, you're in the future
that,
battling Sentinels when to save the character, the X-Man. Um,
yeah,
and then if you successfully do that and exit the future before that time runs out, then your reward is you get a perk or a power
yeah, yeah,
that now helps you for the rest of the game. Now, in the future, I want to make it so you do different things. There'll be different flavors of killing the Sentinels. It won't always be the same one. With this was just how we started it and wanted to see how it went. We will circle back when we get some of the more other stuff done to give some variety, so you're not playing the same version of the future 8 times.
8 times. And the
Yeah.
perks that you get by defeating the Sentinels and saving the mutant, are they then on the screen? Like, do you know what perk you've got?
There wasn't time to get it done in that last release. That
Yep,
it absolutely will tell you what your perk is,
yep.
and then we'll also add it to the instant info. But when you win the perk, it will in in a future update tell you this is what you got.
So some of those perks, I'm assuming, are going to be things like add a ball or extra
Y-
ball or
Yeah,
multipliers or
there's one of them makes Bishop shoot 2 shots instead of 1.
oh,
One of
nice.
them makes the Gambit multiplier 3x instead of 2. One of them is add a ball on the button. We took the add a ball off of the way it was done before, where you're just bashing that beast target.
Oh, yeah, yep.
I'm a huge advocate of add a ball on the button. I want the player to have control of the destiny of,
Mm,
like, I'm going to choose when to use it, and me as a player, I save my add a balls to resurrect a multi-ball I just drained out of.
mm,
Like, that's, to me, that's like a superpower I love.
yep.
And when it was like in earlier times, we would do it on like a mystery award where you hit a shot. Like, I like the idea of, like, I can hit that button and now I save that multi-ball.
Yeah.
So the
Um,
add a ball got moved to the button. There's longer ball savers for one of the perks. Um, I'm forgetting what all of them were off the top of my head because we did perks in John Wick too, and I don't
yeah,
want to
of course.
commingle them, but there are some overlap where they have similar perks. And we did perks on Bond, like that was my pitch for the Spectre weapons in Bond. You know,
Mm,
I put perks on that stuff because people tend to ignore those Spectre weapons. I'm like, I'm going to give them a real reason to want to play those and
yeah.
not just play the modes.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that touching on bishops, right? Because I struggled with that bishop, the old bishop shot where you had to hold it down, and I actually didn't know until you mentioned it on the stream, right?
Yeah.
Now this is either my lack of paying attention or reading, but I didn't actually know that it was a roaming shot before. So it's a little
Yeah,
bit like the one on D&D, right? Where you
it
hold
was
the long
exactly
range.
the same. Yep, it was exactly the
Ah,
same as in
okay.
D&D. And the
Yeah, yeah.
reason why it worked on D&D so well, thematically, it was perfect for Dungeons and
Perfect.
Dragons.
Yeah.
But the way that playfield layout lent itself better to a roving thing, whereas the shots on X-Men are like zigzagging all over the
Everywhere.
place.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to follow, and that you need faster reaction time on X-Men because it's such a fast game
Yeah.
and very atypical playfield, right? So you
Yeah.
didn't have time to hold that thing down unless you were trapped up, and then it just felt like it was too cumbersome and not very useful. And like George and Jack and myself, we all really didn't like it the old way. And we liked it in Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, it just doesn't work for this playfield. So that was really why we decided to change it in this one. Was like, let's just go with like the Deadpool style where take the most valuable shot and award it to
Mm.
you. It makes more sense on the X-Men playfield to do it that way.
And so now Bishop, you just hit him once, and it just clears the most, like the most important shot on the in the mode.
Yeah, it'll calculate what's the most lucrative shot for you, like
Yeah.
the one that will help you the most, usually points wise, right? So, and then that's the one it will award.
Yeah. Right. Awesome. And you mentioned before Beast Lab. So what Beast Lab was always a bit of a grey area because I never fully understood exactly what it did, and it was never. I don't think it was fully written in any way before, right? So what's the
Yeah,
idea with Beast Lab? Because I reckon that's got like a lot of potential.
it
It's
does,
a
and
really
I'm
quirky.
still figuring that out, but I want to change how you qualify starting modes. I
Mm,
feel like qualifying the modes by just shooting all the various arrow shots like I feel like you tell me if you feel the same way. A lot myself and Jack, we always feel like we're constantly in modes and we're never like in main play doing anything.
mm,
And largely because like, all right, if I make three combos, like if I do a three-way combo, I'm in a mode.
yeah.
So I want to move the mode start to be probably on the Beast Lab to qualify it. So that way you can stay in main play. Like we just added those Sentinel hurry ups and they're based off of combos. So freeing up freeing up the arrow shots to not just stick you in a mode when you even if you don't want to be in one currently will
Mm,
give us more freedom to do more in main play and have more to do other than just mode multi-ball.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
But
cool because I
there is a bunch of
yeah,
potential on that thing because it's like the premium lease has that captive ball thing that
yeah.
gets different levels. So I want to do more with that, and we'll flesh that out as we progress over the coming months.
And multi-ball stacking is not a thing now, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
I felt like, and again, I wasn't the only one. We felt like the multi-ball stacking did a disservice to the multi-balls themselves.
Mm,
That I never knew which one I was in, and
yes,
I would
I'll
start
agree with
one
that.
inside another, and then it really breaks the immersion of like multi-balls are a special thing, and especially for a casual player, like
Mm,
the coolest thing they may see is a multi-ball. It should
yep.
feel like a moment, and
Yeah.
most multi-balls in most games do. And this one just felt like they got watered down because sometimes you'd have all three going at once, and you didn't even really know that which one you started. And I wanted it to be more clear and make them more special. So it's a big deal when you get to a multi-ball, especially for the more casual players. Like when my
Yeah.
girlfriend plays the game, she'll get the Sentinel multi-ball now, but she won't probably get to save the city because she won't be able to make that many shots
Yeah.
accurately to start it. So I wanted them all to feel like moments, and Save the City really should and will feel like a bigger deal than it was, because
Yeah.
that's more like a mini wizard type of thing because it's 18 shots to get there.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
it needs to be rewarding and a big deal to get there, and it shouldn't be. And the theme of it was the coolest of the three multi balls, in my opinion.
Oh,
Um,
it's the one thing that do not change because I'm a sucker for 8-bit, 16-bit, and all that
yeah,
old school Nintendo NES music,
yeah.
and that really, honestly, when I've played that the first time and that hit, I was like, this is hardcore nostalgia right here.
Oh
Um,
yeah. So the visuals and audio will not change in that.
yeah,
The rules will, and that'll be even more fun. But the
yeah,
bones
awesome.
of that one were solid. I love the presentation, the concept of like you're clearing the different territories to save the city. Like
It is,
that
yeah,
was all great. I just wanted to like shine up the rules a bit to make it even more fun to play and a
yeah,
little bit more straightforward. To me, my X-Men also the bones were really good. That one's going to get some minor tweaks and polish, but the overall
Mm.
presentation and what you do will largely be the same, but just a little bit of tweaking to it.
Which it makes sense for that to start off the left flipper where the ball looks like it's levitating because that's part of Cerebro
Yep.
versus the mode starting in Cerebro.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so that does make sense. Now you mentioned your partner playing Sentinel Multiball. She gets that. That is
Yeah.
easier to get now. Obviously, it's less
It is.
shots,
Yeah.
but it gets
It
harder.
it does. Yeah. It's
Right.
the first time you get it, it's 6 shots. It doesn't matter where you hit the sentinel, and then it
Yeah.
gets progressively harder every time beyond that to
Yeah.
where you have to hit it way more times. But we needed, again, you need to have something. There should be what Gary always come and play your game and be like, "Where's my multi-ball?" Meaning, where's the one? He's very casual player for somebody that's
Yeah.
been in the pinball industry since he was born. Like he's very much a casual player, which is a huge asset to the
Mm.
company because he's us better players will tend to skew things too hard, and Gary will come and play your game and be like, "This is too hard. Where's the multi-ball for me?" Like,
Yeah.
and then that gets us that's like the reality check of like, "Oh, yeah, we need to make this more accessible," right? That was
Yeah.
very much the case of the Sentinel multi-ball, like, it's the big bash toy near the center of the playfield, like, the novices and casuals need to happen into that so they
Yeah.
can have, like, this cool moment that will want them to play more and then get better at playing, and then hopefully get farther into the game the more they play it.
Yeah, and the one of the things you're right because I'm a casual player, and but I'm a sucker for multi balls,
Yeah.
and one of the things is knowing, like I know in a particular game there's three, and I always try and get those three,
Yeah.
as opposed to like I don't know which one I'm getting or how like can I get the other one or how far away am I from the other one, and it's one of the things where for me, like the more multi balls, the better. I know some people
Yeah.
like, especially tournament players, they're like, "Oh no, too many multi balls," or they last too long.
Yeah.
It's as much as, and I think there's been a little bit of critique now with the new code for Weekend X-Men, where the hardcore players are saying the games have become too easy, right?
Right.
And or easier to start things, let's say.
Yeah.
But I think and I understand that, and I probably agree to some element for those type of people. But the fact of the matter is that a majority of the 70% of the market is home, right?
Right.
Number one. Number two, out of that 70%, I can't imagine like a massive percentage would be hardcore tournament players.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah.
but then we're also trying to bring new people, and like my 7-year-old and my 10-year-old, my 10-year-old was like under 13 champion at our local expo, and she for her to be playing pinball is a great thing because it brings a whole new generation in. And if the games are too hard, and I actually have to say, when we first got X-Men, she loved the artwork and she loved the shots,
Yep.
but she didn't play it for long because she just found it was too hard for her to play.
She was
um
probably never starting the Sentinel multi-ball, I would imagine, because it
no,
took
no,
so many
actually,
shots.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so I would start it, and I would and then she'd take over, right? Or my son
Yeah.
would take over, type of thing. So there is that, finding that balance is tough because even for you guys, who you've got Jack and Keith, and they're guys that are very good players, right? So
Right.
you're designing a game because they're going, "Oh, this is easy," but then then Gary rocks up, who's a casual player, and goes, "This is hard." Like,
Yeah.
so it
A
must be
perfect
challenging.
it is, and as designers, like, we have to that's a balance we always have to try to find in every game that we design, is
Mm,
you have to have stuff for every type of player, right? The casuals, the intermediates, the hardcore tournament players, like, you need to satisfy all those, and it's a delicate balance of trying to get all that stuff in there without breaking any of it, you know? It's like there
yeah,
needs to be stuff close enough, we always say close enough to the start button, where a casual, like somebody like Gary, can come in, bat the ball around, get into a multi-ball, have some fun, and their game could be over in 3 minutes, but they got to do something cool and see neat
mm,
stuff, and interact with the devices. And then you need a guy like a Keith Elwin or a Raymond, Davidson, where okay, there's got to be enough to keep them interested because they might be playing that game for 20 minutes, half hour, or in the case of Bond, Nick played it for like 45 minutes to get through the whole game on stream for
yeah,
us.
yeah,
So you have to satisfy all of that, and you can't. leave any of it out. There's got to be something for everybody.
Yeah. And I think
And then
certain themes make it even harder because certain themes, and I think one of the things, like I was a massive Ninja Turtle fan and collector, and my kids used to get demoralized on Turtles because the scoring is low, right? And it's a tough shooter.
it
And
is,
but the
yeah,
theme that, like, you put Ninja Turtles in the room with other games, and kids will always go to Ninja Turtles, right? So it can
yeah,
always
yeah,
be hard to find that niche, right? And I think sometimes you'll hit it and win it,
yep,
and there may be, it is, you can't please everyone, right? So I guess the
right.
only negative thing I've read is some of these tournament players are just saying that the game's too easy for them now, right?
Right. I mean, we
Um,
we we make a lot of settings in there that you can make your games harder,
Correct. Yeah.
Like you could go in there and make that Sentinel multi-ball hard again if you want to.
Yeah.
Um, if and tournament and a lot of those tournaments they do stuff like that. I mean,
Mm,
I don't play in tournaments. I don't find them to be any fun at all. I get why
no.
people do it and why they have fun. It just for the way I play pinball, I like to do it more socially with my friends and compete for
Yeah.
scores that way. I play in one pinball league, but I've never been interested in going to a thing where they strip all the fun out of the game. They'll remove pulse. They'll set everything on
Yeah.
super hard. There's no ball saver. They'll put lightning flippers on the thing to
Yeah.
to make it even drainier. Like I don't want that doesn't appeal to me as a player. That's not why
Yeah.
I play pinball. Um, but I get that there's a segment of the people that do, and they're accustomed to that. Like when I used to play games at Lyman's house, he would have all the ball savers off and the out lanes all the way open. I'm like, why do you make your game so hard? And he goes, because that's how I play them in tournaments, and this is how I can practice. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I get it. But I'm like, my Adams family is more fun than yours because I didn't do that to mine.
Yeah. Mine's not pitched at 8 degrees.
Right, right, yeah, and the out lanes are all the way open, and you
Yeah.
turned off everything, and you made everything hard. You can't start the modes in the swamp on his Adams family because he turned it off because that's what they did. I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
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 I'm like, you
So
took all
that
the
was a
fun out
good
of it.
That was a good segue because that was my question. So for people that are saying that it's hard, it's easy to start the modes in week and it's easy to do. So you
Yeah,
can change that stuff, right?
you
In the setting.
absolutely can. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
cool.
have a
So it's good.
ridiculous amount of settings in our games. I mean,
I
if you
know.
look at
Yeah, yeah,
Batman, when I was working on Batman with Lyman, I'm like, Lyman, we have like 300 game settings in here now. It was insane. He made a setting for everything. I'm not saying it was wrong. There's just so much in the games, and we do want to make people, especially the people at home, be able to customize it to their liking and to match their skill sets. Maybe they want more of a challenge and they want
yeah,
to make everything harder. Maybe they want to make it easier because they've got little kids at home and they want the kids to be able to see
yep,
more. So,
yeah. I actually, speaking of Lyman, the other day I was looking at my King Kong and I saw the little Easter egg of the Lyman Easter egg in the limestone on the
oh
Aztec
yeah,
carving. It was amazing how much impact he's had that he's still kind of popping up everywhere at the moment.
he is the reason I have a job at Stern. He
Yeah.
lobbied for years to George to hire me, and we worked together at Williams Valley Midway in the '90s. We were great friends for 25 years until he passed away.
Mm,
Um, and then he's the reason why I have a job there. Like he kept pitching it, and then when the time was right, George came after me and and approached me to offer me a job that I've been waiting for years. Um, and I learned so much from him. I mean, a lot of the reasons why people like my contributions to these games are largely due to things that Lyman taught me over the years,
mm,
especially when we worked on games together at Stern. We were in each other's office every day talking about what we liked and didn't like about pinball. We worked on a couple of games together while he was there. And he explained why he did things to me the way he did, and he was a incredible mentor to me in like how you approach rule design.
mm. Yeah, and I mean his influence will be felt for a long time, I think.
Oh, forever. He was the
Um,
best. He was the best in the business in the
yeah,
21st century, for sure. And
yeah,
and even at the tail end of the 20th century, he was to me. You got a Mount Rushmore of pinball rule, like people that advance pinball rules and gameplay. He's the top. He's the number one slot on that Mount
yeah.
Rushmore.
Mm. So, obviously, one thing I did notice with X-Men is the light show. The light shows have changed too.
Oh yeah, that's all Corey because he's
Yeah,
uh I have no influence in the light shows, but yeah, he's made some better light shows
yeah.
for sure.
I think the
Again, and
Sentinel.
it wasn't like the light shows were bad before, but a lot of times we'll have placeholder light shows. to get something in there so there's feedback, and then you go back
Yeah.
and you polish it when you get more of the game done.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
that case, like Corey has gone in and polished a couple things as he's been in there because it made sense to do so.
And I'm assuming you've got obviously a plan for wizard modes, mini wizard modes.
Yeah, we're still working out some of that. Some of that stuff wasn't planned, like what they are, but not
Yeah.
necessarily the rules. And when we get the main game all reworked to all of our liking, then we'll do it like we do any other game. We'll get all the main stuff. We'll work our way to the wizard modes because they're the farthest thing out that the least
Mm.
amount of people see. But yeah, there's we have plans in place and we're scheduled to do all of that.
We'll move on to Wick.
Okay.
So Wick is one of my favorite movie franchise. I'm a huge Keanu Reeves fan. And when the game was rumored, I was like, oh man, like a couple of things I really want to see in the game. And if Winston's not doing call outs, we riot and all this, right? Like I was like,
Yeah.
Winston's got to be the man. And Wick came out, and as a casual player, Wick kicked my ass because those
Yeah.
3 shots, those 3 ramps are like, it's fast. And I think I remember when I interviewed Elliot and Tim
Yeah.
at the time, I said to him, one thing I really like about that game is that the flippers are your weapon, they're like your guns, and it's like a first-person shooter, right?
Yeah.
And I think I blew Elliot's mind as well because he's like, that's a really good way of putting it. Because
Yeah.
technically, the bullets are yours and the ball's yours, and and it
Yeah.
was a fast-paced game.
Yeah.
Probably more, I wouldn't say like a novice person won't last long on Wick because those it's a tough shooter,
They
right?
definitely do not. Just the physics of it.
Yeah.
It's a tough shooter, like you said. It's got some tight shots and it's very fast.
Yeah. And the code update you guys just did,
Yeah.
ironically, and you didn't change the layout, right?
Right, right.
But it made it feel like to me, and again, I'm not a great player,
Yeah.
but I was averaging, 50 to 80 mil, so 80,000, and then I'm all of a sudden I'm at like 100 mil, right? So
Right.
it's kind of like, well, it's amazing how code can change. Those shots are still tight, especially that middle
Right.
ramp kills me every
Yeah.
time. But now obviously you guys have made it easier to start modes. So with the I always forget what to
The
call it.
crate. Yeah,
The
the
crate. I
crate.
always think crate.
Yeah.
Crate. But it gets harder, right?
Right. It goes one,
Yep.
2, 3, and then it's like
Yep.
3, 3, 3, 3. Yeah.
And there was always a confusion and there wasn't much direction about like, okay, well, what am I doing in the middle of these modes? Like, is there a
Right.
progress bar? What's this about? Has that all changed or is that still in the progress?
It's still in progress. For example, the 7 jobs, we've
Mm,
added perks to them, so now there's a reason to wanna beat them.
to beat them,
But
yeah.
there's a very much, a sameness to those 7 jobs, and I think it's universally felt like before nobody noticed because nobody could get anywhere. The enemies block your shots. You'd shoot this thing with the arrow
Yeah.
is lit, you would never get it. So nobody was finishing a mode almost ever.
Mm,
Um, and so you didn't really even realize like, okay, they all feel the same, largely the same, right? Everything was
yeah,
just
yeah.
chase the arrows. Nothing was utilizing like the targets or the spinner. Everything was just like shoot these 5 shots in different, and then just the patterns would change of when you shot what. So
Mm,
we're gonna go back and then give them more unique personalities and change the rules to many of them to
yeah,
make them feel different from each other and utilize more of this playfield, which is a fantastic shooting game.
yeah,
I think now that I'm actually getting somewhere in the game playing it, um, it's really starting to make the playfield layout shine. Like I'm like, wow, this is even a better game than I realized just
mm.
to play, just to shoot it because I'm having a lot more fun with it. So those jobs will change. So the rules are gonna evolve to where they don't feel like so similar to each other.
And one of the things, and again, I've addressed this before where they said it feels easier now. One of the things I personally do like is that those shots aren't blocked by the 3 enemy dots, which originally were a little bit AI. They kind of changed. Um, and now they're more like a shot multiplier, though, aren't they?
They are a shot multiplier.
Yeah.
So if they're blinking, you can kill them.
Yeah.
And, so basically you think of it like this, like there's an arrow lit and there's enemies on this thing that are blinking.
Mm,
John Wick has killed the enemies and done the as he's progressing this job, right? So you should be worth more because you did more than one thing. You killed these enemies and
Yeah.
you did the whatever the part of the job was when you shot that
Yeah.
arrow. Um, if the enemies are solid, that means they're armored. They will not multiply the shot. So if and each one is a +1 multiplier, right? So if there's three blinking ones, that's a 4x shot. And then
Mm.
when you make it, they all go away because you killed them all, and then the shot goes away because you made it.
Yeah.
If, for example, there's three and two of them are blinking and one of them is solid, the two blinking ones will go away and that will be a 3x shot. The solid one will turn into blinking, so it left behind
Right.
a 2x shot.
Yeah.
So you have to remove the armor. Um, so if you wait too long to shoot a shot, those aren't things could be armored, and now the shot is actually worth less points than it could have been
Yeah.
30 seconds ago or 10 seconds ago. So there's a real strategy of like how of picking your shots, like, okay, I want to save these enemies for when it's lit, but if I wait too long, now they're armored. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a balance of it doesn't block your shot, but the armor will block the multiplication of the shot and your ability to kill that enemy on one hit.
And I think that's really reminiscent of the films, though, because in the films it's very rare, and it was one of the things I nitpicked on as a real buff of the films was like,
Yeah.
well, the shots are being blocked and they're really hard, but in the films, like you never see Keanu really being stopped for that long because he's such a good shot that it's just bang
Right.
bang, move on, bang bang, and even if he's being surrounded by three guys, he's out of it very quickly.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like
he
move,
just
move, move.
Yeah, he just mowed through people, and they were just
Yeah,
like it was like slowing down, just the minimum amount of slowing down over a speed bump when you're driving at high
yeah,
speeds. You're
yeah,
like, all right, I'll get banged up a little bit, but I'm going to keep going, and it's not going to deter me for very long. And that's kind of like what we were going for in
yeah,
changing that rule. Because I felt like before, all I did was shoot enemies, and I never, even in a multi-ball, I was never getting a jackpot very
yeah.
often because the enemies were always there. And the longer you played, the more they were. It was kind of felt like whack-a-mole, where
Oh
like
yeah.
I'm trying to, and then the moles just kept coming out so fast you couldn't whack them fast enough, and then I wasn't getting very far into anything.
Yeah, and that then was one of the things I noticed playing it. I haven't spent a lot of time on it, but just very quickly,
Yeah.
was the advisories has changed, and the Winston has changed as well. The multi-ball there.
Yeah, the rules to the Winston multi-ball changed, and in the release that we did last week, the rules to Excommunicado multi-ball
Mm,
changed not only in how you play it, but how you qualify it.
yep.
So before you had to hit complete the stand-up targets 3 times. You had to do 3 sets to light it, and then you started in the dance club, and it didn't. To Lonnie and myself were like, it should start in the dance club. Like you should qualify it in the dance club. Then, like
Mm,
it should be about the dance club. And
yeah.
then the super jackpot in the old rule was in the dance club, and it still is. And the old rule had moving shots, but they started on the hardest ones, and then they would work their way. And then it would be a double jack super if you lined them up. But because you could get a 4x super with the new rules with the enemies, we that was too much multiplication. So we kept the roving thing where you make it they move, but we started it easier, and then it works its way to the harder shots. And then when you clear them, then the super's lit on the dance club to collect it. Um, the premium and LE have the beginning of the thing where it holds the ball in the dance club, and you've got like 15 seconds of
Mm,
shooting things to build your jackpot value. We kept that, um, but on the premium and LE, when it serves you the next ball, right? It's holding the one in the dance club, and now you've got one in the shooter lane. It
yeah.
used to just auto plunge it, and then you now can skill shot it into the dance club, and if
From
you
the back.
do, it adds a ball to the multi-ball, and it adds 500K to the super jackpot value.
Mm,
So you could on the premium and LE, you could make that up to it'll guaranteed a 2-ball multi-ball, but you can get it up to a 4 and then really boost your super. But if you only get one shot at it. If you blow that skill shot, you can't add any more balls.
yeah.
Um, but
That's a
on the
hard
pro,
skill shot to
it
do, like,
is, it
because
is.
it's such a little, into the back of the, but it's so satisfying when you do it, though.
It
Really
is, and
satisfying.
I found once we got that rule in place, I'm all or nothing. I'll either get two in a row, or sometimes three, or I'll just miss it completely
Miss them
every
all.
time. Yeah, so it
Yeah,
puts a lot of pressure on you, but there's a great reward to skill shotting in there. you get the one timer in there, and then you could do it again. If you do it again, that multi-ball can be extremely lucrative if you do all that. The Pro doesn't have the drop target. You can't stage a ball in there. So on the Pro, it's just strictly a 2-ball. You shoot it in there, then you build for the 15 seconds, and when the building phase is over, then it shoots that second ball out, and it's always a 2-ball multi-ball on the Pro.
And one of the things, obviously, the ramps had your allies, right?
Yes.
Before Sharon and Akira, and always forget the other one. And you loaded them up before you started a mode. Like, how has that changed now?
Right now, we say that they're on sabbatical because we had to disable the feature because what they used to do doesn't apply in the new in the new world of John Wick because the enemies don't block your shots. They will be coming back, and they will do their powers, their abilities. What they do will change in relation to what the new rules are in regards to the enemies, and we're gonna tweak maybe how you qualify them, or there's going to be some changes to that part of it too. I won't reveal yet, but they will come back with different abilities that make sense to the new rules, and in regards to that, and we may revisit how they're qualified or used.
No, I'm glad to hear that.
They absolutely are coming back. We didn't have enough time. We wanted to get something out. And we also had to do a lot of brainstorming of like, all right, what compelling thing can we do with these allies now that applies to the new rule set?
Yeah, and I'm glad because, again, being a movie buff, most people probably would notice, but being a buff of the films, like the main one in the middle, he's like the concierge guy at the hotel, right? And it's like, why is he helping me in the battles? Like, what's he doing for me? Like, he's not shooting with me because he doesn't pick up a gun, right? So
right.
But yeah, no, that's cool. I'm glad to know that. The lights out, and funny, one thing about the lights out is when it started and you used to use the bell, right?
Yeah.
That sound of the bells is one of the most therapeutic sounds in the world for me. It's actually my text tone. When someone texts
really?
me, I've got I call it the aeroplane, when you ring for the
for the flight attendant.
Yeah. And I love that, right? And then when I heard it coming to Wick and in the lights out, because in the film, for those that don't know, because a lot of people don't know this, the lights out mode is because the guy's blind and he uses these devices to put in the path, and they go off when people walk, and he knows that there's people coming towards him.
They're motion sensors.
Motion sensors.
So then he knew where to shoot. Yeah.
So he knew where they were coming, and obviously, he's blind. He hasn't got superpowers, but and that's changed though, right? Because it's not as easy to get that action button now.
Right. So now, the way the lights out is qualified, that stays. So you spell Yaga, and then it lights the button red, and then when you press it, the lights go out, and then it's 2x playfield multiplier. That part remains the same. What we changed was the motion sensor part of it. So in the old rule set, every time you spelled Yaga, from the second time onward, if you hadn't used your lights out, you would build up these motion sensors, and then during lights out, if you pressed it, it would add time to the thing, and it would light up randomly one section of the playfield. I found that people were just all they would do is just like stockpile motion sensors, and then you'd stay in lights out forever. You could just keep it going, and then you could qualify lights out while you're in lights out, so when you got out, you could just do it again. And it was just like, it was to me, it broke the game. It was just like, this is too powerful. I like the motion sensor concept. It was fantastic, and the lights out concept was fantastic. We just thought that Lonnie and I felt like the implementation could be better. So what we did was we made the motion sensor a perk that you earn by completing one of the jobs, and then when you activate it, it lights up the shots that are currently lit, and not just the GI and the section. And it's like a split second. It's not even 1 second. So you hit it, and then you got to look and remember, okay, what's lit? So I know, where are the shots that I need to hit right now? And then you can't use it again. There's a cool off period that's about 4 seconds, I think. And before you could use it again, you could keep using it minus the cooldown period for the duration of lights out. And you'll have that motion sensor ability for the rest of the game once you earn it. And when Lonnie pits the thing of the button and then like being able to repeat it, I wanted to do like a roving thing and then we were looking at where the lights were. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to work so good if it was swirling
Yeah.
because of the insert layout didn't lend itself to that kind of light show.
Hmm.
And Lonnie's like, what if we just made it where you hit the button and it revealed it briefly? I'm like, that could be cool. And then he wanted to do repeating it. And I'm first like, I'm like, no, like, once. And then he goes, well, let's try it repeating because and then he liked it. And when I played it, I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. This is the way. So that's what it became.
Yeah.
And it was a true collaboration of the two of us. And it turned out to be like, now I love getting it because there's something really fun about figuring out when you could smack that button again to light up your shots and knowing I can't do it again for a few seconds. Right. Then I got to study them. I'm like, okay, I got to make these and I'll do it again.
Yeah. I actually think lights out mode and even before was a real pinball moment because it's something about when all those lights went out and it was kind of eerie. It was very eerie, and then you
Yeah.
hit the bell, and the bell was so satisfying to hear the
I
air
love
hostess
that
bell.
sound. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it was a pinball moment. I really enjoyed it. So now, so out of curiosity, if you go into lights out and you haven't completed that mode, you don't
Yeah.
have any way of getting the bell. The
Correct. Yeah. The
motion
only way to
sensor.
get the door, a lot of people call them the doorbells, So the
Doorbells,
only way
yeah,
to get the motion sensor is you have to play it and beat that one job that gives you the motion sensor perk. And then you'll
yeah.
always have it for the rest of that game.
And is the perk is it the same job or
It's the
does
same.
it
Yeah.
change?
No. So in earlier code revisions, there was a randomness of like this job and this faction. That's
Yeah.
all. It's the same every day forever.
Okay.
There's no randomness anymore of that.
Yeah.
There's no randomness of like how to start a adversary battle. Right now it's always 10 enemies to kill. Not in multi-ball. You have to kill them not
Yeah.
multi-ball. Because like someday randomly it would be 36 or 38 enemies to light an adversary battle,
Yeah.
and again, really nobody was seeing them.
Yeah.
Nobody was.
Yeah.
I never got to play those modes because it was too many. It's too hard to do. There's too many enemies
And
to
that's
kill.
so for people that don't know, that's the scoop on the far left, right?
Yeah, the far left.
Yep.
Yeah, the
Yep.
administration shot. Those modes are really, really fun, and there's a lot of risk and reward there because
Mm.
you have a pretty long ball saver in them, and you can get collect or cash out. You can if there's a good push your luck. Everything about those modes was super fun. It's just that nobody was able to get to them before, and now they're actually attainable.
Yep. And so that was adversaries. The modes themselves, when you go into the trunk
Yeah,
and
the jobs. Yeah,
in the jobs, they
yeah.
are random.
No, they used to be.
They used to be,
Now,
yeah.
yeah, now the job is tied to a faction, and it's always the same with the same rules every day.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
randomness is now gone.
Okay. Um, and the Winston shot. So the deconsecrated multi-ball.
Yeah.
That's one that I missed. I don't how. So how's that actually started now?
Oh, it's the same. The deconsecrated one, that's off Winston, where you spell
That's off
Winston, then
Winston. Yep.
yeah, then you lock 3 balls on the center ramp. That part's all stay the same.
But is
It
it
was
easier or not?
it got a little bit easier, and then
Yep.
we made it one shot harder
Okay.
on this last week's release because to space it out more from the car multi balls, which is the
Yeah.
easiest one to start.
Yeah. And actually, there's a debate at the moment. I was trying to explain car multi-ball to someone, and then someone else was explaining, can you just make it official? So how with car multi-ball, you start it by hitting the car. It says car on the playfield, right?
Right, and then you have to shoot the left orbit to start
Left
it.
orbit. Yep.
Yeah,
And does that become harder as well over time to start it?
it's we haven't touched it, so I'm pretty sure it does.
Does,
At
yeah.
some point, right now it picks at random which one you're gonna play because there's four
Yep.
different flavors of it. At some point, we want to not only polish up those four to spice them up a little bit better, but have a deterministic way of you choose which one that you are going to start. That'll happen
Yeah.
at some point where, kind of like James Bond, where if you hit the Goldfinger target, you're toggling what your
Yep.
next mode is. We'll do
Yep.
something similar to that with the car when we get to that part of the game.
One of the things that I've found interesting was like, obviously, especially at the beginning when everyone blocked the shots, the enemies blocked the shots. I always thought it'd be cool to have something off the action button where, because in the movies, Wick does use grenades and that will clear the enemies, or long range uses daggers occasionally. You know, which will probably upset the whole thing about the guns, but we won't go there. So, you know, I thought there was always something cool to do, an action button to clear, because there isn't like a clear shot with that action button at the moment, is there?
Correct. Yeah, the action button it's pretty full now. So it's got your lights out / doorbell or your motion sensor. Add a ball now lives on there because that's a perk that you earn on the job. That one I know because it was the one we just added last week. The far right job, so there's 7, right? The farthest one right, that's the job that gives you the add a ball. So then you have to, so it's a short press for lights out, short press for motion sensor, you know, and those two can't live at the same time because motion sensor doesn't happen unless you're already in lights out. But on the long press, you have add a ball, and on the premium and LE, we added that swipe a ball feature, which we had in Bond and Stranger Things. That's only on the premium LE because it has a physical ball lock. That's a long press. But again, there's no overlap. You can't use swipe a ball if you have and have not used your add a ball for that ball. Because you get, when you get the perk, you get 1 per ball, add a ball. But if you use it up and you're on a premium and LE and you got balls locked, now if you're in anything that's not the Winston multi-ball, the deconsecrated, you can steal your own locks to become add a balls, but you have to pay them back with interest, meaning to relock those, it's 1 step harder than it was before to qualify those locks.
And as the ball save, you know, where you hit the left
the
blood oath,
blood oath,
that hasn't changed, correct?
That hasn't changed. One of the perks though is it will light both of them instead of 1. So if you get the 1 perk, then every time you qualify that the marker ball save, you get both outlanes lit and you can use them up, you know. But the current rule is without the perk is exactly how it was. You qualified it off the markers. You can lane change it with the flippers.
Yeah, awesome. You mentioned something before. We've gone on to an hour, so we'll wrap it up. So one thing you did mention before, risk and reward, and I can't believe I didn't mention it because it's on my watch and we didn't even talk about it, was Danger Room, right? And Danger Room, one of the things I loved going in there was very heavily risk and reward, right? So we'll quickly touch on that. I know now when you go in it, a lot of people are like, oh, you got ball save, because it's just to give people, you know, an opportunity to get back in the game. I like the ball save feature because sometimes it happens so fast when you get in there that
you don't even realize it. It's like it's gone.
So I think that's cool. There's obviously at the top of the screen with the 3 elements. So if you do a certain amount of spinners, shots, and ramps, there's perks. Has that evolved, or is that still the same where it's just 3 levels?
Right now it's still the same. That's gonna a lot of that's gonna change. We're gonna add more purpose to the Danger Room where it will affect like the modes when we redo the modes, right? Because in X-Men lore, they practiced in the Danger Room. They were training for like when they were in real world scenarios, like fights and battles. Like we want that to feel like you do that in the game where, okay, if you go train in the Danger Room before you play a mode, it's going to greatly enhance your scoring or something in the mode, right? Because you trained for it, and like now this mode scoring. So we haven't got to that part of the, you know, that's on the to-do list. It will coincide with when we start reworking the 8 modes. So there will be much more purpose for the Danger Room.
I think the Danger Room, and obviously not being a traditional Italian bottom, was a great thing. I don't know whether we'll see it again, but it's just you know, I'm a sucker for upper playfields and lower playfields, and even though this hasn't got one, it feels like it does, right? Because it's pretty much an upper playfield just at the front of the game. I do like that there's a ball save. It's not for everybody. I'm sure I'll get hammered in the comments about that, but
and it's just 1 per ball too. Like the first time you go in there at a ball, you get a brief ball save just to get so you understand what's going on, and then you're on your own for the rest of that ball. It doesn't come out every time.
And it was funny because I was talking to a couple guys the other day. They were going, "Oh, we like that the Sentinel only breaks it now during the multi-ball, the Y form, right? because they were like, it used to always go down the middle when it like would just break it. And I was like, you know what? Mine never did. Like I
Oh,
always
mine
felt that.
was 100% of the time on mine. It was
Well,
crazy.
I don't know. I always felt like because the hands are lit up, right? And you know
Yeah,
that when the hands lit, it was going to break. So because
yeah,
I knew that, and maybe because I'm so heavily invested into the whole lore of X-Men, and
yeah,
maybe I'm overthinking it, but because I knew it was coming, I kind of knew I had to save the ball. But
yeah.
I think a lot of people don't know that and didn't know that, and it would drain for them, right? Like it
Right,
would just
right.
drain. I
So
don't think it's not a design flaw, as people said, oh, it's a
no,
design
no,
flaw.
not at all. It was supposed to be
It's
dangerous, you know.
yeah,
It's like I'm
that's
fighting
right.
back.
Yeah,
So now we brought that back outside of the multi-ball, where when you start the Sentinel hurry up, it's like you know, when you hit that combo threshold, either the finger will stop the ball or the thing will break, and then two Sentinels come down, and you have to,
yeah.
to attack you, and they're hurry ups, and you have to clear them before they run out. So now we've brought that back, and there is a setting too that you can bring back the other behavior where it would come out,
Yeah, yeah. So you can make it so it does it all the time.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I might have to try that because I do miss it at the same time. Like I'm like, it's cool that it's not there, but I kind of wish it was there as well, like a choice maybe. But the
Yeah,
settings a good thing. Look, it's been great chatting to you because having chatting to you about two games that I'm personally heavily invested in relation to theme and a connection to is cool to talk on because like I've had the experience personally with them and knowing kind of what I liked and what I didn't like because no
yeah,
game's perfect and it's not going to appeal to everybody.
right.
But it's cool knowing that the games, the fact that like we get a game and then it evolves has so much replay value. Now, okay, maybe it came out and it wasn't for everybody, and they're going, "Oh, it should have been like that in the first place." But it's been a journey, and I like that journey in a way.
Yeah,
Like it's not. I understand that people go, "Oh, it shouldn't be that way," and I understand that, and into some element, I do agree. But I do like being part of that journey,
yeah,
because the thing with pinball is you buy it and the intention wasn't, I don't think, for people to buy it and then go, well, I'm not waiting any more than 3 months and I'm going to flip it and then I've lost a couple grand, now it's your fault type of thing. Like
yeah,
that's the part I struggle a little bit with. But I understand sometimes people can be impatient, especially if space is an issue.
right.
And they can only have two games and they happen to have a Wick and a X-Men.
Yeah,
I can empathize with a little bit of the fact that like you got only two games and they're two games that need work, right? So I
yeah.
can understand that, you know.
I can as well. And then, you know, for various reasons, both of those had a fairly long gap between
Mm,
software updates, and that's not the norm for us. We
no,
try not to let that happen. We try to keep a pretty steady cadence. Um, but for a variety of reasons on both of those projects, a longer gap than anybody would have liked happened. And now,
yeah,
now we're trying to get on a good cadence of like, okay, you know, we're going to give you some regular updates now on a much more consistent pace,
yeah.
and get these games to be complete and even more fun.
And not only with Insider Connect, because as soon as there's an update, people rush to the arcade to play that.
Yeah,
Um, and which was one of the cool things at the beginning with contracts on Wick, because you'd see contracts and then
yeah,
people were like, we need to get to the arcade because Insider Connects becomes such an addiction. Like my 10-year-old is like, I need to log in, I need to log in because she wants
yeah.
to get achievements and then she wants to check the achievements. So I can understand that, and I hope the contracts come back because I think it's a really good business move to drive people to arcades, right?
I can
Um,
say, I can tell you with certainty that yes, they are coming back. So I won't say when, but I don't know. I don't know how long this will take to come out, but I will tell you that um, in the not too distant future, you'll see some contracts again.
Yeah, cool. Because I think it's just beneficial for pinball. I think it's just going to drive more people back to the arcade, and I'm really excited to see where we go. And I've got hopefully Jack next week will come on the channel and have a chat. I've been trying to pin him down since October,
Yeah,
and we'll talk to him. And there's a big change happening, obviously at Stern with Jack. And the thing with Jack, it's interesting because following him as a Twitch streamer, he really put pinball kind of on the map for people that either didn't have access to go play them, wanted some form of interaction, had it during COVID because they were on their own, and he really helped put a community together. And now with his design elements, even though there's only 3 games and he's working on another one and whatever it is, and even if he never creates another game again, I still think the impact he brought on his layout for Foo and especially X-Men, I think will impact design forever. So if his purpose was just to do those games, but now bring people into Stern a bit more, so be it. I'm okay with that.
I really admired him for the uniqueness and that he took big chances. He didn't play it safe with those last 2 playfield designs, and they were both excellent. He really thought outside of the box, and it showed. And they were both really great shooting games and fun games. So I admire him for that. And also, he was very much a pioneer of like pinball streaming. He was one of the I really credit him with the one that popularized that. Like that really wasn't a thing. And then he made it a thing. Now everybody streams, and it's fantastic. Like I'm glad that pinball has a growing audience, but he's largely he should be largely credited with spearheading that.
Oh, and growing a community. I mean, like when there's people that I'm introducing to pinball, I send them dead flip links from YouTube. Because he's got a personality and a persona about him that he feels like he's talking directly to you, even though there's 100 other people watching at the same time. And then he tells you that he loves you, and it gets all fuzzy and warm, and then it's so he's got that way, and I think in a way having someone like that stuck in an office is probably not a great thing, and I think someone like that needs to be with the people or at least talking to the people. I think it's a smart move. So I'm looking forward to talking to him more.
Yeah, I agree. He's a great ambassador for pinball in general.
Sorry, you were saying it was a slight delay?
He's a great ambassador, a great host too. He just adds another element of fun to the pinball universe.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, look, Mike, thank you very much. I really appreciate we finally got there, and great to talk. We could keep talking for hours, obviously, but we like to keep these to an hour and 15 because people tend to start falling asleep listening to my voice for that long. But I really appreciate it, and hopefully there'll be another release. We can get you back in and do a part 2.
I'll come in anytime you want. I'll be happy to do it.
And we will discuss more X-Men more week and take it from there. So thank you very much, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell your friends and all that jazz. Head over to Stern's channel because Mike did an awesome video on X-Men and Stern. X-Men and Wick on the new code drops. And go watch Nick blow up X-Men. That was impressive.
Yeah, so he's a heck of a player.
Like 20 minutes. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the flip side.
All right. Thanks for having me.